This is the Dr. Paul Show, a woman's personal guide to understanding men. And now, here's Dr. Paul.
Welcome to the Dr. Paul Show. This is Dr. Paul, and have we got a show for you tonight? Are you ready for this? Romantic, idealistic love. I was once told by a woman that I was too much of a romantic idealist. She later apologized, but that was too late. Dr. Paul's door was closed to her forever. Why am I saying romantic, idealistic love? Because so many of you have emailed us in the past month saying, Dr. Paul, would you read that section of your book again about romantic, idealistic love? Well, okay, since you've insisted, I'll do it. I feel like the Palays, romantic, idealistic love. They do such a good job in that. Here it is. From Boomer Girls, which will soon be on Kindle. I will tell you all about that. I understand that the price is going to be very, very fine. It's going to be a real bargain for you, and I know that all you ladies out there who are contemplating engagement, marriage, or even a relationship, you're definitely going to have a reference book now at your disposal on your Kindle or iPad or whatever electronic device you have that is available with that type of book that you can read. iPad, I believe, is one. Kindle for sure. Here we are. Romantic, idealistic love. As in the sex part, a caveat is in order. To introduce romantic, idealistic love, it's necessary to set the stage. The stage is this. If you have already established at some point in your relationship, engagement, or marriage that you are sexually compatible, read on. If not, see the previous section on hypnosis and sex. That would be previously in the book. I really don't have to explain, however, that to be sexually compatible, you and your partner must have the same appetites in the sex department. If one of you wants sex 3 times a day and the other wants sex 3 times every 2 weeks, who are you trying to kid? Forget it. Nothing is going to change your DNA to make you suddenly compatible. This goes for men as well as women. There are as many miserable women out there who need sex and love with more frequency as there are men. Now, if the two groups could just find each other, we might drastically reduce the population of divorce lawyers. Now, wasn't that a great concept? My grandfather used to tell me a German proverb which went something like this. If the marriage is on the rocks, then the stones are in the bed. This part is truly for those who may have had that real consuming fervor for each other at some time in their lives together. If you truly have ever had real sexual desire for each other, including mutual climaxes, a burning desire to make passionate love together, but perhaps things have not been as erotic as they once were, then this part is definitely for you. Allow yourself to become vulnerable. Vulnerable? You mean no more macho? That's right. You mean no more female manipulation? Right again. Is it worth it? Let Dr. Paul tell you from firsthand experience that it is absolutely worth it. In business, we would call it a risk-reward situation. If you are willing to risk it, this completely open love relationship can allow you to discover a level of happiness in this life that you may have thought existed only in some fantasy. Perhaps in some Jane Austen novel. Men, you really have to try this. I know it's tough. I know there will be times when you will want to throw your arms up and say, 4-letter word it. But hang in there. It may be the bottom of the ninth with bases loaded and a full count, but you have to keep pitching. It may be tougher for us to really commit to accepting being vulnerable. All of our lives we have been taught the opposite. The result is that our interpersonal lives we have always held a fallback position, just like in team sports or business or even in the military. It just doesn't work in a relationship. Nothing is stronger than to simply look your mate in the eyes when she is at max PMS, even yelling at you, and say to her, I love you. And of course, really mean it. And how is she going to respond? She may suddenly realize that you are far stronger than she ever imagined. She also may apologize. I know they hate to do that, but maybe she will become a bigger person too. No, you do not have to become a doormat. Remember, when we set this stage, we had already established that a relationship existed. We're not talking about some female or male bimbo here who is an opportunist looking for an advantage. Ladies, you also need to become vulnerable. Do you know that men can tune you out? Well, that's really profound, Dr. Paul. I never knew that, right? I didn't need to read this book to have you tell me that. Okay, if you start to nag, complain, bitch, if you will, men can tune you out just like a radio playing in the background. You really don't want that to happen, do you? I once saw a mother on her about 5-year-old son's case in a grocery store. I could see the son had totally tuned her out. During her scolding, he simply looked up at her and said, "Mommy, do you love me?" He was at least honest enough to ask. Your husband or significant other may just turn on the TV, leave the house, or ultimately just leave. Is that what you want? Is that the price that you were willing to pay for being a shrew or a bitch? And what did the mother do with the little boy? And what did he say at that point? You guessed it. You haven't heard a word I've said. I would bet that she treats her husband in exactly the same way, and that little boy will probably be the victim of a broken home at some point in time. We all know that the mother should have picked up the little boy and reassured him that she loved him. The same thing is true in your relationship. Men do need reassurance, ladies. Believe me, all the macho and all the bravado doesn't mean a thing. It works with the guys. It works in a business setting, maybe. But deep down inside, yeah, there is that little boy, that child within that needs reassurance. Ladies, if you don't understand this, if you don't allow yourself to become vulnerable too, you will never know true happiness. Please understand that we're not talking about physical abuse. That is totally unacceptable. If you happen to be into sex games that include discipline, etc., that's entirely different and mutually agreed upon. Verbal abuse is a gray area since it goes both ways. I was once introduced to a book about verbal abuse. It was grossly gender biased against males since its basic premise was that males were the only verbal abuser. Well, another pile of toro fecundi. And in case you don't know what toro fecundi means, look it up. Toro is Spanish for bull, and fecundi, well, that's Latin, and you'll have to look it up. As a man, it never ceases to amaze me how women will actually flock together on a radio show, on a TV show, and even at lunch to totally castigate men. I said castigate, not castrate. Do men care? Not really. They tend to ignore it. Unfortunately, it only serves to reinforce the very image that women don't want to create. Men in general don't have any higher expectations of women. That's really sad. But the prevailing attitude is, if I don't expect any more than this, then I'll never be disappointed. A lot of talk show hosts make a lot of money by creating a lot of hostility between men and women on a lot of shows. I will not do that. I refuse to do that. I have never done that. Don't buy into that. Seek a balance. It will pay you happiness in your life. And now to one of Dr. Paul's pearls. A man will love a woman because he feels great about himself when she is with him. Let's read that again. A man will love a woman because he feels great about himself when she is with him. Write it in soap on your mirror so that every morning when you get up, you see it. Ingrain that into your every action. It is how a woman makes a man feel about himself that causes him to love. So many women are so caught up in their little selves, their little worlds, their little problems. They want to be told how pretty they are, how nice they look. It's me, 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 and that's fine. But what if you complimented your man? What if you complimented your man? What about on a regular basis? How would he feel about himself? Wow. Aside from the fact that he may be so shocked that he would go into cardiac arrest, how do you really think he would respond? Men have told me that their wives, girlfriends, etc. say nicer things to their cats than they do to them. Nicer things to their cats. Men really resent that. They probably won't like your cat either. There's a popular movie about several wives who were dumped by their husbands for younger women, and it's a classic. Many women attended this masterpiece in groups. I'm talking about the movie. Whole clubs attended en masse. Why? So that later they could bemoan together about their own husbands who left them for younger women. But what about those women whose husbands did not go for younger women or any woman? What are they doing right that these carryovers from yuppiedom didn't do right? Another pearl from Dr. Paul. It isn't the younger age of the woman or man. It is the age of their ideas and dreams. It's their spontaneity. A seasoned woman, or man, ladies, can be the ultimate erotic experience day in and day out for the rest of your life. A very successful and well-known woman said it some time ago. She's passed away, but you would know her if I mentioned her name, and I won't do that. She wasn't the first person to discover this truth, but because she said it, people paid attention. In essence, the concept goes something like this. If a woman keeps her husband or significant other so sexually satisfied, now at this point we can use other terms such as satiated, drained, or a variety of more earthly descriptions, that he simply isn't going to look elsewhere. The question of being involved with another woman is purely academic. Really wise women make their men feel great. An author was interviewed about a book she had written on getting a married man. Although I don't condone the action, the technique was right on the mark. Give him flowers, she said. 2 different women have done this for me, and the effect was profound. Compliment him, touch him, put your arm around him, take the initiative, tell him he's the greatest. Tell him you believe in him. Tell him you need him. Tell him he's handsome. How is he not going to do things that make you believe in him? Of course not. Why would he? Yes, men and women both sincerely seek romantic, idealistic love. You will find it in each other only if you are willing to become totally emotionally vulnerable. Then, a whole new life of love and happiness together will be yours. In closing, a final pearl from Dr. Paul. If you always do what you've always done, then you'll always get what you've always got. This is Dr. Paul. We're going to a break right now.